see, you can't really change until you hit rock bottom. But how do you know you're at rock bottom, or if it's just another false floor? The Berlin Wall collapsed in 1989, signaling the end of communism in the 20th century. And then you have individual falls. O.J. Simpson in 1994 went from the heights of popularity to the depths of deprivation. I had a friend in the early 2000s who had been cheating on his wife, and he fell hard, was exiled, was kicked out of his house, and landed in our guest room, where he lived for about 6 months, shaved his head, and pretty much put ashes on his head. His wife agreed to go into counseling, and after a while, their marriage was healed and restored. Falls are always hard to watch and are always hard to go through. But when God is in the picture, a fall is never the end of the story. It's just the end of a toxic season. Well, the final chapter of 2 Chronicles outlines the final fall, and it's an ugly scene. The Babylonians come into Jerusalem. Some young men think they can back themselves into the sanctuary of God, that they'll be safe, that a life of toxicity and idolatry can somehow be turned around by a good luck charm like God's temple. But it didn't matter for them. The awesome and horrifying scene continues with the temple itself being burned to the ground and the stones being knocked over one by one. The very walls of the city of Jerusalem torn down one by one. The land got its rest. And many of the people were exiled into Babylon. And it tells us that they were there for 70 years until Persia rose and God began his new plan. We're going to soon be going to the New Testament after the books of Ezra and Nehemiah. But what we'll find in 6 months when we return to the Old Testament is the exilic writings of beautiful, brilliant prophets communicating the love of God who comes to his people after the fall. There is no end if God is in the picture. And on some level, all of us fall. But when the Lord is present, all of us can get up. God is the God of the fall, which leads to exile. But exile always leads to return and restoration. Have you fallen? It's okay. There's still a God.
Oh Lord, please don't leave me in agony.